Hi there, welcome back. This is Casey, and I am here today recording a video on the alchemical liver. And I'm going to do my best to keep this video somewhat brief. The subject of the liver is rather heavy, rather extensive, and my goal is to introduce some of the functions of the liver. I would also like to touch on the energetic aspects of the liver, and then I'm going to show you guys how to locate the liver within the iris, and not only the physical zone that it's located in, but other signs that there could be liver stagnation within the body. I'm also going to talk about some of the plants, medicinal plants, herbs that are used and how they affect the liver in terms of healing the liver. Okay, so yeah, this is a big topic, and as such, the liver is the largest and heaviest organ within the body. So if you're looking at, the mind of creation, you can see right away that this is a very important organ in the big picture of how our bodies work. Okay, so I'm just going to go briefly into some of the functions, and I'm going to have more detail. If you're interested, you can go to my site, lightandbody.com, and I have a whole page on the liver. All right, so some of the functions of the liver are its bile production, and that is crucial to digestion. So bile contains a mixture of bile salts and waste, such as bilirubin. And bile salts aid fat digestion in the duodenum. So the liver produces this bile, and then it is held in the gallbladder, and then it is secreted into the small intestine via the common bile duct. And so we're going to look at that in just the next screen. I have a picture of more detail of that bile duct, which it shares with the pancreas. So it's secreting this bile into that first part of digestion, along with the pancreas secreting its enzymes into the very first part of the small intestine, and that is the duodenum. Another thing that the liver takes care of is it removes the excess hormones that have been secreted by the body. So the body's chemical messengers, hormones, work by changing the activities of target tissues, as we know. And then once the hormone has exerted its effect, it is destroyed. Otherwise, it would, keep doing its thing. And many hormones are broken down by liver cells, and then that byproduct is excreted by the kidneys. The liver is also responsible for protein synthesis. Liver cells secrete most of the plasma protein found in blood plasma using amino acids from digested food or hepatocytes. The liver is responsible on some level for heat generation within the body, and along with the thyroid, of course. And one of the major roles of the liver, and what we probably appreciate it most for, is its role in detoxification. So essentially every single thing that we put into our body, that includes food, that includes liquids, that includes smoke, it includes whatever we're taking in through our skin. So there's a lot of very small molecule-sized toxins that come in the form of perfumes, body products, a lot of stuff we take in through the skin, a lot of the stuff that we breathe, and then of course like what we drink and what we eat. The liver is primarily responsible for detoxifying and breaking down those harmful substances. So the liver plays a vital role in detoxification by breaking down drugs, bacterial toxins, man-made poisons, and pollutants. One of the main roles of the liver, and one of the ways that we know it best, is in its role as a nutrient processor. So when nutrients, particularly glucose, fatty acids, and amino acids, flood into the bloodstream following digestion, the liver processes them. So we know glucose is the body's main fuel source, and its level in the blood must be kept steady. So liver cells gather glucose, they store it as glycogen if blood glucose levels rise, and release it from the store if levels drop. They also convert excess glucose to fat. So the liver breaks down fatty acids to release energy or stores them as fat. So it's almost like, like I said, it is alchemical. It will take what we give it and it will create what our bodies need, and it will store that and release it when it is needed. It also will hold on to, and this I will touch on when we get into the energetic aspects, it will hold on to toxicity that would be detrimental to the entire system. So it will hold on to toxins, and that does end up coming into the energetic perspective. It's like a holding of energy. And so there's a lot there. There's a lot there in the liver. So when we detox the liver, a lot comes up. All right. Another vital role the liver plays is to store vitamins and minerals. Notably, vitamin B12 and the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K are stockpiled by the liver and released when required. The liver can store up to 2 years' supply of vitamin A and 4 months' worth of vitamin D and B12. Since they are stored and any excess cannot be excreted, it is important not to overdose on vitamin supplements. And, if you're following me, and if you follow Dr. Morse at all, or any of the just complementary therapies in regards to natural healing, our perspective is that you don't necessarily need to take supplements, because you can get all that you need through your food, and especially the fruits and the greens. But if you do take supplements, it's important not to overdose on the fat-soluble vitamins, because that can cause damage to the liver. The liver stores iron needed to make hemoglobin, and copper, which plays a part in many metabolic reactions. The liver also removes defunct red blood cells, and they are destroyed by the Kupffer cells, which are the macrophages that form part of the lining of the sinusoids. Red cells are also destroyed in the spleen. Okay, so I think that's just a quick summary, and that's all I'm going to say about the functions of the liver. There's a lot more to the liver. I do believe there are a lot of things that the liver does that we're not well aware of at this point. Okay, so let's move on, and I want to show you a picture of the liver, and then as it is seen in the iris. So we have the Iridology chart here, and the liver in Iridology, I'm following Dr. Jensen's chart, is seen exclusively in the right eye. as well as the pancreas. So we can see in this chart, the liver takes up quite a lot of real estate in the iris. And we have, it actually extends all the way out through the skin ring, or into the skin. And then we have the gallbladder right above it. You can see right in there. And we have the pancreas right next to it. And then you can see where the duodenum is right in here, the first part of the small intestine. So when we're looking at, we can come over here to this chart and we can see that we have the liver up here, and then the gallbladder and the bile duct, and the pancreas here. And these two fluids from the pancreas and the gallbladder are secreted through the common bile duct, and they end up in the duodenum. So these are collectively, with the two different fluids, they are for breaking down fat, and also alkalizing. Especially the pancreas secretes an alkalizing enzyme into the small intestine. Okay, and next I am going to go over an iris, maybe two irises. I want to show you how the liver shows up in iridology. Okay, just 1 second. I am going to switch the screen. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of eyes and go over how we're seeing the health of the liver and a couple of eyes. And so we're looking at this area right in here. It would be, so if the arm and hand was at right around 8 o'clock, the liver would be right around the 7:45. Yeah, about 7:45. So just inside of the 8 o'clock line. And when you're mapping eyes, a lot of times it's not quite as simple as just, you know, looking at the chart. Sometimes it's slightly moved to the right or the left. But I have mapped this iris, and this area right in here is in fact the liver and the gallbladder. So I don't want to actually put that out there that you can't just look at your eyes. You can, but there's times when the pupil can be off center, different, just a few little things that can actually make the eye a little bit off center. So that's one of the reasons that when you're looking at your eyes and you see something and it's like, man, that looks like it's got to be the liver, but it's maybe just, you know, a centimeter off, then, you know, you can assume that there is a little bit of wiggle room when you're looking at iridology. Okay, so I would say this whole entire section right in here is the liver and the gallbladder. And then we have the abdominal, or excuse me, the bowel wall right in here. It's a little bit not so well defined in this iris, and she does have some transversal fibers that could indicate some scar tissue here in the bowel wall. But right in here would be the end of the digestive system and the beginning of the rest of the anatomy, in this case the liver and the gallbladder, which actually are part of the digestive system. So what are you looking for when you're looking at that liver zone? I do want to mention, this is just from personal experience, that, you know, when you're looking at iridology and you're looking for weaknesses, you're looking for a few different things. Two of the main things are lacunas, so the holes or openings within the iris fibers, And then you're also looking at the psora spots or drug deposit spots. So here's one right here, here's one right here, here's one right here, and then here's one right in that liver zone. And I have to say that of all the eyes I've looked at, the most common sign of imbalance or toxicity in the liver zone is not necessarily a lacuna. I have seen lacunas in the liver, but more often than not, I see the signs of stress in the liver in the form of these markings, these pigmentation spots, okay? So I do want to talk for a minute about pigmentation, drug deposits. Denny Johnson refers to them as jewels. Earlier iridologists, especially Bernard Jensen, referred to these as drug deposits. So when you have ingested some kind of inorganic substance and the body is not able to process it through one of its organs of elimination, it can get lodged in specific tissues in the body. It's pretty straightforward, right? And if that continues for a generation or a generation or a generation, then it burrows itself deeper into the stroma of the iris structure and becomes what we would call a psora spot. And those actually can be passed down. So I have seen that there are some psora spots in that moms have. You know, I've seen pictures of children and then their moms, and like the psora spots are in the same place. So when you first get a drug deposit, it appears more on the surface. And if it's not able to be detoxed out of the body, it burrows itself deeper and becomes darker. Okay, so this eye has quite a lot of jewels. This would be like a jewel type personality, according to rated iridology anyway. And the darker the spot, so this one in here, would be more into the chronic or degenerative state. Now, as iridology progressed, there were some more theories and some more research, and there's plenty of research to show how the drug deposits do manifest within the iris. But there's also another perspective that certain organs will produce enzymes when they are struggling. And so they attribute different colors of the different organs, enzymes, to that process. So brown would actually be the color that they attribute to the liver enzyme when it is stressed out. So either way, whatever, if you're looking at European iridology, German iridology, or traditional, the Western American Bernard Jensen iridology, when you see a spot, whether that is from a drug deposit that has become a psora spot, or whether that is due to enzymatic activity, in this case, it really doesn't matter. It's both of those would point to the fact that there is a lot of toxicity within that liver. I just think it's interesting that you see the psora spots more often than you see the lacuna, which really backs up the idea that there is something going on within the liver in terms of toxicity, of substances being held in the liver, or the liver being affected by these toxic substances. Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to look at when you're looking at the health of the liver. You're going to be looking at the whole section. I'm seeing this, pretty decent sized psora spot or pigmentation right there in the center of the liver. And then I'm also looking up at the gallbladder, and there's just, as you can see in this eye, there's a lot of orangish, brownish, likely a lot of sulfur, and that does that does come up in the gallbladder also. And just a lot going on if you look over at the pancreas. So, you know, the liver is the liver is the liver. So we're just kind of getting a little bit like, oh, okay, well, if you see the pancreas and the duodenum, if they're in stress as well, that would just contribute more to your conclusion that there's something going on in that area of the body in terms of digestion. But we're going to stick with the liver. Okay, so this is the liver zone. We're seeing sore spots or pigmentation. We see the gallbladder has some congestion also. So that would be the gallbladder right in there. And then another thing I'm going to show you is see how the bowel wall was a little bit, it's not necessarily spastic. To be honest, I can't see the actual outline of the bowel wall because there's a lot of lymphatic congestion and sulfur covering up that delineation. But when you see a bowel wall that is spastic, there may be constrictures or strictures or what do you call them? When there's pocketing, or diverticuli, so there could be pocketing going in or out. And if you see that unevenness right in the liver area, that's another indication that something's going on with the liver. All right, so another thing that I want to show you is there's just a pretty strong skin ring in this eye, like even to the point where it looks like there's probably an anemia ring going on. When you see a strong skin ring, weakness in skin in a certain area, and in this area, the most common area I see skin rings in is the lungs and the heart area, but it does extend all the way down to the liver. So when you see, there's also a lot of cholesterol in here. So yeah, that's another sign. Your liver is producing a lot of cholesterol. That's not a sign that your liver is down. That's a sign that there's a lot of inflammation in your body, and that the liver is working a little harder than it would probably normally work if there weren't so much inflammation. So there is cholesterol in here. And then back to the skin ring. When you see a skin ring and you look inside of that skin ring to the anatomy of the iris, you're going to know that there is likely weaker organs in that area. So we have a skin ring, we have a sort of an undefinable and questionable bowel wall, and then we have a spot right on the liver. So if I were doing a reading for this person, which I have, liver would be one of those things that I would mention as important to be focusing on. Okay. I'm going to show you in the next iris how signs in the sclera, in the white of the eye, can also be pointing to stress in the liver. And yeah, that's it for this eye, and I'm going to go on to the next one and see you in a second. Okay, so with this second eye, we're seeing something similar. We have a psora or drug deposit or pigmentation in that liver zone. So I would say that this whole area in here would be the liver zone. So we have this, it's fairly light, so it doesn't look like it's in, you know, the chronic to degenerative state. And this, by the way, is a very strong constitution. So this person's actually, you know, I think well into her 70s. And so, you know, for that age, I'm saying a really clean eye. Now, that said, and I don't want to go all over the place, but So we have the liver zone over here, and we're also seeing pterygium is, I'm thinking how you pronounce it, and it's this sort of opaque gelatinous tissue. It's on the surface in the sclera of the eye. And let me pterygium. Okay, so we have the presence of pterygium, and not as much in this eye. A lot of times you'll see in a true brown eye, you'll see just sort of like yellowing, just basic yellowing. A lot of times it's really close to the periphery or the outside of the iris itself, and that can also indicate liver congestion. Okay, so back to this liver zone, we can see in this eye, I don't know, I have to make a note of this. I don't know if you guys notice how far the lymphatic tophi have retreated in from this skin ring. So when these are all lymphatic tophi, so this person has a lot of lymphatic congestion. There's something going on over here in this lung and chest area. Probably just a lot of congestion. So anyway, we can see the bowel wall or the autonomic nerve wreath in this person's iris. So we can outline that. And I want to show you before I outline it how it is, in fact, it is quite irregular. So we have this sort of spasticity, we have ballooning, and when you have that right in the liver gallbladder area, then that is showing that there is stress within that area. So that is that. And then the rest of the bowel wall. So a lot, you can see, we've talked about this before, but certainly this person is experiencing brain fog. And you can see that in the fog, in the heavy lymphatic congestion up in the head and brain area. Okay, so signs of liver distress: skin ring outside of the liver zone, pocketing and bowel irregularity inside, so towards the bowel wall and towards the stomach and large and small intestines. And then we have the sore spot right there in the liver zone. Another thing I want to mention, and I'm not necessarily seeing it so much, I mean, I could imagine it, but I'm not really seeing it all that well defined, is that when you have pupil flattening, so when you have any kind of flattening in a pupil, we're talking about stress within the central nervous system. And when you have, whatever you have outside of that area is going to be affected by that. So if there were pupil flattening in that area, that would be another indication of stress within the liver. Okay, so yeah, those are the classical signs of liver toxicity. And now I'm going to get into the recommended protocol for healing, addressing the liver. And we're going to talk about a few herbs, and we're going to talk about just a general instructions for diet. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, so I apologize for the bright yellow. Yeah, I don't know how I did that, and I can't really switch it back. So I thought I would leave it because yellow is the color So one of the colors that represents the liver. So I want to talk about a few different classifications of plants that are used in healing the liver. So something I would like to help you with, and something that I've sort of struggled with in the past, is, you know, hearing a long list of plants that help the liver, like dandelion and milk thistle and bupleurum and all these things, but not really being able to retain that knowledge. And I think that when you actually look at what the medicinal actions of plants are, it kind of helps you to understand why certain plants help certain organs and certain systems. So the most important plants for liver health are those with the medicinal actions of bitters, alteratives, hepatics, anti-inflammatories, and liver tonics. Okay, so bitter tasting herbs play a special role in preventative medicine. The bitter taste triggers a sensory response in the central nervous system. You can read along with me. Bitters also aid the liver in its detoxification work, releasing bile flow, and stimulate gut self-repair mechanisms. So I want to see if I can type in some bitters. So some pretty common bitters are Angelica, which I just did a video on, blessed thistle, also milk thistle is considered excellent for the liver and also a bitter. Dandelion, gentian, and Oregon grape. Now, Oregon grape root is a pretty common plant found likely all over the country, but because I've mainly been in the Northwest and the Southwest, I do know it grows in Colorado and California and Oregon, Washington. I believe it grows all over the country. So Oregon grape root contains a very similar compound as golden seal root. So I recommend, and it's berberine, and it's this yellow color, and that indicates that it is good for the liver. So I recommend you use Oregon grape root when possible, because it is not at all in danger. Like what did I say? The one that is golden seal. Sorry, golden seal is almost extinct in certain parts of the world. So if you can use Oregon grape root, you'll get the same medicine. Okay. And now alteratives are herbs that cleanse or alter the blood. Most herbs for blood cleansing support the function of the liver, spleen, kidneys, and bowels. They take time to do their work and should be used consistently over a long period of time, promoting the gradual detoxification of the entire bloodstream. This will in turn help balance digestion, assimilation, and glandular secretions. So alternatives aren't, you know, like it says, it's a little bit more gradual, a little bit more gentle. And herbs in that alterative category would be alfalfa. And alfalfa also is a nutritive plant. So just like dandelion, you can take a lot of certain plants because they are just like nutritive, implies that it's like a food-like plant. So alfalfa, black walnut, just going to do a few here. I'm not going to do them all. Again, blessed thistle, I'm not going to write that, but it's also in this category. Burdock, this is a big liver herb that you'll see, and mainly it's the root that's used. Cascara sagrada, chaparral, chickweed, and I'm also going to note cleavers, and I'm going to leave it at that. Cleavers is one of my very favorite plants. Well, chickweed, yeah, I don't want to skip over chickweed. That's like it's really close to the top of my list. It's also a nutritive. It's also an anti-inflammatory, and it really works with the liver in reducing inflammation and helping to clear out congestion from the liver. Cleavers is a wonderful plant for the lymphatic system, so you could use it in conjunction, treating the liver and the lymphatic system. I believe it also has beneficial effects on the kidneys. And again, it's a nutritive, so you can't, you can do cleaver tea, cleaver juice, cleaver tincture. It's a really commonly found weed. Have done a video or two, at least one, where I took a look at cleavers. And then hepatics are herbs that strengthen tone and stimulate the metabolic and secretive functions of the liver. Common hepatics are angelica. So we have angelica coming up twice. So that's, when you see different plants being listed in more than one category, those are going to be your star liver plants. And there's actually a lot. So we have agrimony, angelica, barberry. We'll put barberry in there. Again, contains berberine. Blessed thistle. Blue flag. Cascara sagrada. And we know Cascara sagrada, yes, it is a hepatic. It's also very strong stimulant to the digestive system, so you have to be careful with that. Again, we have cleavers, dandelion, milk thistle, and Oregon grape. Okay, so we also have poke, red root, self-heal, and yellow dock I'm going to write down because that's actually pretty commonly used for the liver. All right, and I have a complete list of these plants on my website. So now plants with anti-inflammatory properties can be used to reduce liver inflammation. This is going to help the whole body and are especially valuable component when taken in combination with other liver enhancing herbs. So when you're looking at a formula, you might want to put a bitter tasting herb, an alterative, hepatic, a tonic, an anti-inflammatory, to address all different aspects of healing the liver. And I believe if you are a fan of Dr. Morse and you follow his guidelines, I might go grab my liver gallbladder tincture capsule bottle, because I know most of the ingredients, but I don't want to forget any. But yeah, he has an amazing combination of herbs. It's one of my absolute favorite formulas, liver formulas. Okay. Okay, so we have addressed hepatics, and let's talk about a few anti-inflammatory herbs. So, anti-inflammatory herbs that would benefit the liver would include chickweed. So chickweed, and chickweed is so commonly found. And I had a long period this summer where I was collecting it and making it into like like wheatgrass kind of shots. I was doing really concentrated juice shots of chickweed. It's nice tasting. It sort of tastes like grass a little bit. You can also use it in salads. Okay, so we have chickweed, turmeric, and self-heal. Self-heal came up again, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And then garlic is also considered in this category. Garlic can be a little bit, you know, it's garlic, so it can be a little bit aggressive, but, and if you're, you know, some people recommend you use it in detox, some don't. So that's kind of up to your own voice on that. All right, so liver tonics. These are herbs that specifically are geared to the liver, and these would include, again, barberry, Cascara sagrada. So I've mentioned it a few times. I'm not going to write it down. I want you guys to be careful with Cascara sagrada. It isn't in Dr. Morse liver formula, but it is in his GI broom. And so if you've taken that, you know it can cause some movement for sure. Dandelion, golden seal, and Oregon grape. So of all the plants that are coming up, I would say that I'm going to make just a quick note of what those plants are, and then again, you can go to my site if you want to see more. But we're coming up with angelica, thistle, dandelion, Oregon grapefruit, chickweed, cleavers, turmeric. Only came up once, but it still is a pretty common plant used for the liver. And then golden seal, like I said, if you can replace that with Oregon grapefruit, I definitely would. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm going to go grab my Dr. Morse bottle. Okay, so he does have milk thistle seed as the first ingredient. Milk thistle seed I've actually sprouted, and it's good. It's like a little bit stronger than sunflower sprouts, but it's a really mild tasting seed. So you can add that to teas if you want to put together your own liver formula. Burdock root, dandelion root, bupleurum. Okay, so I didn't mention bupleurum because most of the herbs I'm focusing on are American herbs. Bupleurum is a plant used in Chinese medicine, but I do want to highlight that because it is actually one of my very favorite herbs to use. It's really effective for the liver, and it also has a mild sedating effect, at least on me. I don't think it will sedate everyone, but it's sort of calming. Bupleurum. Cleavers, bayberry root, turmeric root, asparagus root, schizandra berry, yellow dock root, and prickly ash bark. So that is Dr. Morse's liver and gallbladder support. Okay, so that's just a brief list of plants that you can use to address the health of your liver. And in terms of diet, I'm just going to go over this really briefly. What harms the liver? Well, we all know that alcohol harms the liver. The liver processes over 90% of the alcohol that we put into our body, and the rest is processed through the lungs and the skin and the kidneys. So whatever is left, whatever alcohol is left unprocessed, is what circulates through the bloodstream, causing intoxication. So chronic alcohol abuse causes destruction of liver cells. We all know that, which results in scarring of the liver, alcoholic hepatitis, and cellular mutation, which can eventually lead to liver cancer. So we know that cells, especially liver cells, are fairly easy to rebuild. We stop the activities that are harming the liver, and then we add in these plant allies, and we clean our diet up, and we'll see a pretty quick shift in the health of the liver. What else harms the liver? Toxic chemicals, drugs, aspirin, pain relievers, pharmaceuticals, smoking can increase the risk of both liver cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. Toxic chemicals and tobacco smoke can cause inflammation and eventual cirrhosis. Chemicals. So everything we consume passes through the liver, including food, drinks, and drugs. So just be aware, anything you put in your body has to go through your liver at some point. Okay, high protein. And especially animal protein. I have some research up on my site about, studies that have involved high protein derived from animal sources and a high fat diet and how that harms the liver. Salt, fried fast foods, sugar, especially, obviously not the sugar found in fruit, but we're talking about refined sugar, and especially high fructose corn syrup causes a fatty buildup that can lead to liver disease. And just in general, you want to be careful about what you're putting on your body. Airborne chemicals and chemicals that may go through the bloodstream directly through the skin in terms of like self-care products. Okay, so we're coming back to the conclusion that a diet high in fruits and leafy greens, live vegetables, a small amount of fat and protein through seeds and nuts. If you're not detoxing, if you're detoxing, you probably want to avoid, or, keep your fat to a minimum, and probably even just get it through the holy avocado. Okay, so that's the basic perspective from the diet perspective. All right, so I want to briefly look at the energy of the liver, and I'm going to move on to that, and that will be our last segment of this video. Okay, so for the last segment of this liver video, I'm going to touch on a few points about the energetics of this center. So the liver is located in the solar plexus chakra. That is the third chakra. It is named Manipura in Sanskrit, and it translates as City of Jewels or resplendent gem. It's a very shimmery, shiny, joyful, expressive center. And the liver, as one of the major organs in this center, is accompanied by the rest of the digestive system, and the pancreas would be the gland associated with the solar plexus or Manipura chakra. Okay, so we're looking at the concept of digestion, and we're looking at how we receive nutrients, information, sensory stimulus from our environment, and how we process that. And I think one of the key elements to keep in mind with the liver, and I noted this in the part of the video where we looked at the iris itself, is that most of what I see in terms of liver toxicity in people's irises is that of the inherited type. So it's what we're passed. And you can see that in the form of the psora or the pigmentation spot. So a lot of times we are born with livers that are under stress, just related to what our parents and grandparents and grandparents and grandparents have done to their bodies and how they've lived. And a lot of times, I think for me especially, I think on a pretty subconscious level, resented some of the habits that I saw in my parents or grandparents, in terms of, like, why is this person smoking or drinking? And they don't need to do that. And what is that all about? And then, so that's me judging these energies that I come to find out now. Well, that's where I got my liver. And on top of that, how do I live? How do I treat my liver? Has it turned into something where I've judged other people for doing something and then I've also turned to those habits? Yeah. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So the liver has a lot to do with these fiery emotions. So the kidneys are more of the watery emotions, and they're also filters. And that would be the second chakra. And the liver is more of a processor and alchemizer of fiery emotions. And so that includes anger and joy and frustration and rage. And if you're not able to express your creativity or how you're feeling or who you are through your throat chakra, through your voice, a lot of these feelings will get lodged into your liver. And then you go back to the coping mechanisms of, poor dietary habits, taking in of substances in order to numb the pain. All right, so we have this element of what has been passed to us, what are we doing with it, and how are we treating our own bodies in our own lives, and what choices are we making to break that pattern, and how are we embodying that center, that solar plexus? How are we bringing that fire into our belly and maintaining it and cherishing it and expressing it? So yeah, Manipura, solar plexus, liver as the transformer and the alchemist, the liver filtering emotions, fiery emotions. And then again, back to that concept of forgiveness. And when you think about the word forgiveness, of course, it's best to forgive all and forgive yourself especially. But when you break down the word, it's like before, and give. I've been thinking about that because it really implies that you just give without any expectation of what you will receive. And you then open the flow of energy to move through you. And as energy moves through you, you automatically open that channel of how to receive what the universe is wanting to give you. So yeah, I think that's about it. I have a whole write-up on liver energy on my website if you would like to take a look. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.